everyone, it's Foo here, and recently I've been trying to make some new battle strategies for Sword and Shield. While doing this, I've been thinking about some of the move and ability combinations that we don't currently see in Sword and Shield that have absolutely amazing synergy and would lead to some great battle strategies, but we just can't really do in the current games. So in today's video, I want to present 5 of them to you that I think should be implemented in future games, maybe as buffs to existing Pokemon, or maybe even for completely new Pokemon introduced in future games. So first off, I want to talk about No Guard. I think this ability is so cool because it allows you to use some usually unreliable moves that you don't see in competitive play at all, because what it does is it means that all of your attacks will hit, but it also means any incoming attacks that you take from your opponent will always hit. That's kind of fine. We see some Pokemon exploiting this ability really well, like Machamp using accurate dynamic punches to do a ton of damage and always confuse the opponent. Lycanroc Midnight form can always hit its stab stone edges to do a ton of damage. And in previous games, Mega Pidgeot could spam its hurricanes for crazy damage and maybe a chance to confuse too. So I love this because you just get to use some usually unreliable moves very reliably and you can spam them. But I don't think that we've met its potential yet. There are so many other Pokemon and so many other moves that could really benefit from No Guard, and the first one that I want to talk about is Hypno. This Pokemon has been criminally overlooked for the longest time. It really hasn't got any meaningful buffs at all, and it kind of stinks. It's not even in Sword and Shield. I would love this Pokemon to return with the No Guard ability because it's the Hypnosis Pokemon, and it really struggles to put anything to sleep because it has to rely on the move Hypnosis. Hypnosis has really bad accuracy, and that basically relegates this Hypnosis Pokemon to actually not putting stuff to sleep and doing other stuff instead. But if it had the No Guard ability, it would have 100% accurate Hypnosis. Now that sounds crazy good, and it would be really, really good for Hypno. It deserves such a big buff. It also kind of makes sense for a Hypnosis Pokemon because if you're hypnotized, you're not really going to be able to guard against attacks. So I think thematically it suits too. Now, would Hypno be broken because of this? I don't think so. Hypno's stats are pretty rubbish. Its only good stat is really its special defense stat. It can't do any damage at all with its poor attacking stats. And its speed stat is one of the worst in the game in my opinion. Like, it's too slow that even if you want to use a boosting item, for example, there will be Pokemon that can outspeed it. But it's not so slow that in Trick Room it will always move first. It's a middling speed. It does learn Trick Room, and I think it could be a really good support Trick Room Pokemon if it can have 100% accurate Hypnosis. But I still don't think it will be broken. I think it just will be a really nice buff and would really put a Hypno on the map. So this is something that I want to see so badly because I'm a Hypno fan. I know it's weird and creepy, but the idea that Hypno just puts people to sleep to nibble on their dreams, I just love that. And I want Hypno to live its best dream nibbling life. So that's the first use of No Guard that I want to see, more of a like utility use that we don't see at the moment. The other one is that I want more special attackers to get the No Guard ability because there are some really fun special moves that don't see any play whatsoever because they're so unreliable. And those include Inferno, which is a fire type move that does decent damage and always burns the opponent if it hits. It's only got 50% accuracy though, so you really don't see it at all. And there's also Zap Cannon, which is similar on the electric type side where it does decent damage and always paralyzes the opponent if it hits. So having Pokemon with the No Guard ability that learn these moves would be really interesting to see. There are also the one-hit KO moves, but I don't think I want to see any Pokemon with a one-hit KO move with the No Guard ability because it kind of makes a farce out of competitive battles. You just click the win button. There are strategies where you can try to make this work, but they relied more on the move roleplay in previous generations because some Pokemon that learned one-hit KO moves also learned roleplay and they could copy the No Guard ability and then spam their one-hit KO moves. Now it's a bit more convoluted. You have to do skill swap chains. Still possible, but it's very hard to pull off, which is probably a good thing for the competitive scene. So let's leave the one-hit KO moves where they are right now. I just want to see some of these funky utility and special attacks boosted by No Guard ability. Okay, so let's move on to number 2. The second thing I want to talk about today is the Contrary ability. This ability swaps stat boosts into stat drops and stat drops into stat boosts. And you can really utilize this to your advantage because, for example, Malamar can use Superpower, which would usually drop its attack and defense, but instead boosts them, which is really neat. In Sword and Shield, this is a very limited ability. Only the Malamar family, the Shuckle family, and Lorantis family have this ability. In previous games, we also saw the Superior family with this, and they are probably the best users of this ability because they could spam Leaf Storm to do a ton of damage and boost their special attack. And that was a really neat use of this move. And I think that I want to see more Pokemon that can do that, because there are a lot of other special moves that do this stat dropping effect, which you could reverse to your advantage. So Draco Meteor, Overheat, Leaf Storm, and Psycho Boost all do this. And an example of a Pokemon that could really benefit from this ability would be Alolan Exeggutor, for example, because it learns Leaf Storm and Draco Meteor. So every turn you could have consistent damage output, getting stronger and stronger because you're turning special attack drops into special attack boosts, which is absolutely insane. Turtonator could do a similar thing because it learns Overheat and Draco Meteor. I don't think thematically it makes much sense that these Pokemon will get the ability, but I would like to see new Pokemon with this ability. I think that would be cool. And maybe more Pokemon with the contrary ability that learns Skill Swap, because in previous games we had Spinder, which is the only Pokemon with the contrary ability that could learn Skill Swap. But it's a pretty rubbish Pokemon. It's got really, really low stats, so it really struggles to do anything. But if it can Skill Swap away its contrary ability onto something that can use it better, that's very, very cool. I'm also kind of annoyed that Malamar doesn't learn Skill Swap, being a Psychic type Pokemon. I think it would fit really well and could give Malamar a bit more use, because though Malamar can exploit its contrary ability reasonably well, other Pokemon may be even better. So yeah, I just want to see more contrary. I think contrary is amazing in Sword and Shield because with Dynamax moves, there are lots of stat drops flying around and obviously Intimidate and everything. So I'd just like to see more contrary, but also more contrary with Skill Swap. That would be very fun to see. Okay, let's move on to number 3, and this is a really fun one. So this is with the Moody ability synergizing with Stored Power or Power Trip. Moody boosts one of your stats by 2 stages each turn, but it also drops one of your stats by 1 stage each turn. So over time, you can accumulate quite a lot of stat boosts. And if you pair that with Power Trip or Stored Power, these two moves get more powerful the more stat boosts you have. No Pokemon in Sword and Shield have this combination. However, it is a combination we have seen previously because Smeargle has the Moody ability and it learns any move that it wants to. So it can learn Power Trip and Stored Power, but it's just not a very strong Pokemon. That's the issue. And also it's not in Sword and Shield, so we can't see that anymore, which sucks. Now, I think that this combination can be really, really potent, because it's just so easy to stack these boosts with the Moody ability. If you go for Substitute and then Protect and you have the leftovers, then you're not losing much health each turn, and as long as you're faster than the opponent, you won't have to take attacks because you can just Substitute and Protect and get your leftovers back, and they'll only be breaking your sub, which is really cool. And also in previous generations, you could boost Evasion, which means they might even miss your Substitute, which allows you to just do whatever you want. So in this replay, you can see my Smeargle is just stacking all these boosts. It also has Leech Seed, which means that it gets even more recovery, so it can even more reliably just go for Sub-Store to get a lot of boosts up before it starts spamming its Power Trip attack. In the end, I think I managed to stack 17 or more boosts, and with each stat boost, Power Trip and Stored Power increase their base power by 20. And they only start at 20 power, which is very low, but after 17 boosts, that turns into a 340 power boost to 360 power overall. That's insane power. That's way more powerful than Explosion. In fact, it's like 2 V-Creates, or a super effective V-Create, which is absolutely mind-blowing power. Now with Smeargle, it has an incredibly low attack stat, and it doesn't get the same type of attack bonus, but it still does a ton of damage. Because bear in mind, some of these stat boosts will be boosts to your attacking stats. So not only do you have a high base power move, but you also have like +3 or +4 attack, which it's coming off, which is crazy. So this could be really fun to see on a different Pokemon that maybe has same type attack bonus on Power Trip or Stored Power. I think it would be very, very fun to see. It's also worth just noting that Power Trip and Stored Power don't lose power from stat drops, so it will only count the positive stat boost. So you're always going to have more than 20 power on these moves after some Moody boosts, which is very good. Moody received a nerf in Sword and Shield. It can now no longer boost Evasion, which is kind of much more balanced, because Evasion is a luck-based stat, really, and not having to worry about that, I think it could be much more balanced. I would like to see a Pokemon that could use this strategy effectively. I mean, Smeargle can use it. It can actually sweep with it. It's just, you can't use it in Sword and Shield. So I'd like to see it in Sword and Shield, basically. Okay, let's move on to number 4. And this is going to be the 8 abilities and Boom Burst. So by that, I mean Aerolate, Pixelate, Refrigerate, and also there's now Galvanize, which does the same thing, but for Electric-type moves. So these abilities turn normal type moves into their respective typing. So Aerolate is flying, for example, Refrigerate is ice, Pixelate is fairy, and they give them a slight damage boost too. But we've never seen these abilities paired with what is probably the most powerful spammable normal type move in Boom Burst. These moves would make Boom Burst insanely strong, and also the user would always have same type attack bonus. And also it can then be super effective, because normal type moves can't be super effective against anything. But if you have one of these abilities, your normal type moves turn into something else which can be super effective. So you can have super effective Boom Bursts, which would be crazy, absolutely mental. In the footage, I tried to show skill swapping Aerolate onto a Noivern, and Noivern has telepathy, which is even better because whatever skill swaps it will then get the telepathy ability and won't be hurt by Noivern's Boom Burst, which I think is a very cool synergy. But it's just impossible to pull off in Sword and Shield because Aerolate was constrained to Mega Pokemon, Mega Pinsir and Mega Salamence, so we won't be able to get an Aerolate Noivern in these games. But it would be very cool to see. Maybe in a future game, if we get Megas back, we could have a Mega Noivern with Aerolate Boom Burst, or there's maybe a chance that we could get Mega Flygon with the Dragon Bug typing and a new Buggalate ability so that you could have Bug type Boom Burst from Mega Flygon. How awesome would that be? But we should probably very swiftly put that fantasy to the back of our minds because, let's face it, it's never gonna happen. So let's move on to the final ability move synergy that I want to talk about today. I want to see more Pokemon with Magic Guard and recoil moves. Magic Guard prevents any indirect damage, so things like entry hazards, poison damage, burn damage, Rocky Helmet, Iron Barb, for example. And that's the main use that you see of it, because a lot of Pokemon that have the Magic Guard ability are generally special attackers, and there aren't very many special recoil moves. But actually, Magic Guard does also prevent recoil damage. That's from Life Orb, but also from moves that have recoil, inbuilt recoil damage. So in the footage, I can show Blacephalon spamming Mind Blown, which usually removes half of its health each time it uses it. But if you give it the Magic Guard ability, it doesn't lose any health at all, and you can just spam one of the most powerful moves in the game, which is so funny. It's so fun to do. We did actually used to see a Pokemon that would use recoil moves with a Magic Guard ability. When it was first introduced, Magic Guard Clefable was a normal type because fairy types hadn't been invented yet, I guess. And so it could use Stab Double Edge. With the Life Orb, it wouldn't take any recoil from all of that. Now, Clefable does not have a particularly high attack stat, but because it has Stab Double Edge and it didn't take any recoil, it was actually kind of powerful, which was really cool to see. But we don't see it anymore because now it's fairy type and it doesn't have a good recoil move. So I want to see more things with like Flare Blitz or Double Edge with the Magic Guard ability. Two examples that I want to provide are Rapidash and Galarian Rapidash, both of which get Double Edge and Wild Charge as coverage moves, but also Fire-type Rapidash uses Flare Blitz as its most powerful stab move. And without getting recoil from that, it would have such good longevity, it would be such a good ability for these Pokemon. And I think it does fit thematically as well, because they're both unicorns, they're mythical beasts, so there's some magic in there somewhere, and having Magic Guard would help them both so much. I mean, they're far from broken, they're kind of low tier, but it would be really neat to see these unicorn Pokemon with some really nice, powerful recoil moves that they don't actually suffer the recoil for. It would also allow them to hold the Life Orb without any recoil, and it would be amazing. It would also mean that Rapidash doesn't take Stealth Rock damage, which would be very good too. So I would love to see this buff in future games. I think it's probably unlikely since they do have very established abilities now, but I would like to see it. Anyways, that's going to be all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click the notification bell because I don't have a regular upload schedule, so if you don't want to miss a video, definitely do that. And let me know in the comment section below what you think about my suggestions and whether there are any other move and ability combinations that you would like to see that we don't have already, because I'd be really interested to hear about that. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.